The Xenos have concentrated their forces on the continent of Molochari. Unfortunately, they broke the containment fortifications of the Molochari bulwarks, and they have been working to isolate the continent further by infesting the surrounding ocean. On the positive side, Molochari is heavily fortified and supplied with numerous night houses and a well-trained and equipped PDF. It was initially thought that most of the defenders of the Molochari bulwarks had been killed. However, more and more survivors are trickling to Lupercalia, the capital city of Molech. As far as we can tell, the tyranids are now preparing to siege Lupercalia. This is unusual. In previous invasions, these Xenos have destroyed and absorbed more valuable assets before assaulting the strongest points. We suspect there's something in Lupercalia they want, though it's unclear what they could be after. Lupercalia holds many secrets of the ancient night houses. We will be moving to support them as soon as possible. First, we relieve Dawn Citadel, and then we move on to Lupercalia to break the siege. Your personal assignments are on these data slates. The Emperor protects. All of the assembled officers gave the sign of the Aquila and departed. Sergeant Lazarus remained behind to speak with the Lord General. Fletcher could not hear them as they began speaking in hushed tones. He grabbed his data slate and headed back to the Ogryn barracks. Commissar Fletcher knew they wouldn't be in Fort Leosta for very long, but they needed to resupply, and Fletcher was grateful he didn't have to deal with loading and unloading the Ogryns every time they set up camp. No matter how many times these creatures got into chimeras, they never seemed to get used to it. Only their bonehead managed to consistently keep calm. Brutus was waiting for Fletcher as he emerged from the briefing. "Oh, it's you. Are you following me around too? Do I have to take care of everything Gallus left behind?" Brutus flattened his ears and looked contrite. "No, come on, you big baby." Brutus happily trotted after Fletcher as he moved to the old storage areas that had been converted into Ogryn barracks. According to his data slate, his Ogryns were going to be provided with 3 las cannons to improve their effectiveness against high-value targets. He needed to select Ogryns who would be able to handle a weapon that they needed to reload every single time they fired it. He would likely give one to the bonehead and then figure out the rest. Speaking of which, Bonehead Biff was waiting outside of the barracks. Fletcher regarded him with some confusion. "Is there something you need, Bonehead?"
"Gallus used to give me a talk after he got a big talk from the other bosses."
"Aren't you supposed to be watching the other Ogryns, so they don't get into trouble?"
"I told them to clean the barracks and get ready for inspection. That usually keeps them busy for a while so we can talk."
Fletcher was still feeling out the capabilities of Biff as he led him into the office. "Well, it appears the Xenos forces are concentrating their efforts on Lupercalia. We will be joining a relief force to raise the siege at Dawn Citadel. Then, once we meet up with elements of the Third Army, we'll march on Molochari and raise the siege of Lupercalia." Biff nodded but said nothing. We're going someplace to kill enemies, and then we'll get more friends and kill more enemies."
"Oh, okay. I think I got it now."
"Good." Fletcher paused for a moment. "Oh, there's something else. The Lord General, the big boss, he wants to give us 3 las cannons. Have you been trained to fire a las cannon?" Biff nodded.
"Yup. Load, shoot once. Load, shoot once. Load, shoot once. Makes a big boom."
Fletcher nodded with a smile. He seemed to be getting somewhere. "So, we need 2 more Ogryns that can use the las cannons. Which ones are smart enough and patient enough to fire and reload and aim carefully each time?" Biff thought for a moment.
Ogg and Gus, probably. They're both smart. They can learn fast."
Fletcher nodded. It took some time, but he and Biff eventually seemed to get on the same page. It would take some time to get used to this new command. These Ogryns responded well enough to standard Ogryn commands, but Gallus had taught them new, more complex commands that allowed the unit to be used more effectively. Fletcher had to do the legwork of learning these new, unofficial commands through trial and error, as Biff had trouble rattling off every single command phrase. Fletcher was making progress with his new charges, but he did not have a lot of time before they would be in combat again.
Gus, Ogg, the big boss has got you some new guns.
Biff handed the two Ogryns the enormous las cannons that usually took 2 humans to carry and operate.
These are different from the Ripper guns. 1 shot, reload. 1 shot, reload. Understand?
Ogg and Gus looked at each other. They thought that was awfully slow, but they both shrugged.
Yeah, I think I understand.
Good. You'll be using these the next time we face the bad bugs. Tomorrow, we're back on the move. A wave of groans ran through the Ogryns as the promise of more days in the transports did not appeal to them. Fletcher was not exactly thrilled at them getting in either, and he was not pleased by this response. Ogryns, it is your duty to the Emperor to obey. Guardsmen across this planet are giving their lives in his service. The least you can do is do your duty without complaint. If I hear one more word of complaint... Fletcher paused for a moment, trying to think of something worse than getting into a chimera that he could threaten the Ogryn with as punishment. If I hear one more complaint, I will tell the Emperor. The Ogryns gasped, and a few tried to shush the others as the others tried to shush them back. Commissar Fletcher nodded in approval before leaving the barracks. But as he left, he shook his head and sighed. He felt like a fool threatening these imbeciles with the direct wrath of the Emperor himself. But it seemed to be effective. As he took a moment to collect himself, Ogg emerged from the Ogryn barracks as well. Fletcher raised an eyebrow as the Ogryn approached.
Mr. Commissar Fletcher, sir? I'm Ogg. I just wanted to say thank you for letting me shoot the big gun. I know it's gonna be hard, but I'm gonna try my best to shoot and reload and shoot and reload, shoot and reload, and shoot and reload. It's not like my normal job with the Ripper gun, but that's kinda just like what you have to deal with. You're not normally an Ogryn commissar, but you got to, 'cause the Emperor said so. So, yeah, I'll do the hard thing the Emperor wants, just like you, Mr. Commissar Fletcher, sir.
Fletcher could only nod at the odd piece of insight this simpleton managed to scratch together. The commissar quickly made a note to himself. Recommend Ogg to be considered for biochemical Ogryn neural enhancement.